So you know how in the summer, whatever rabbi is giving the sermon is responsible for the weather, whether it's like a beautiful night or it's raining? Well, it's different in the winter. In the winter, if it's bad weather, we blame the rabbis who are in Mexico. The dusty dirt clumped against his sandals. He gathered that old but fine woolen coat in his gold-clad hands and sat down, dangling his tanned legs over the side of the pit, bored deep, deep into the ground. It was dark, it was dry, while inside it snakes slithered and scorpions silently subdued their enemies. Just sitting by that pit was to sit with the pain. He eagerly went to find his brothers that long ago day at his father's bidding, even though he knew they hated him. He knew his dreams they despised, his coat they coveted. After his father's love they lusted, and for all of that, into the pit they threw him. But all of that was in the past now. As one of the most powerful men in Pharaoh's court, Joseph lived a life of comfort. Reunited with his father, reconciled with his brothers, we can imagine Joseph and the entire family living prosperously together in Egypt for the duration of Jacob's life, a long, long life that ends in this week's Torah portion. Returning to Egypt after burying Jacob in Machpelah, Midrash teaches us that Joseph stopped to look into the pit. What pit? That same pit into which his brothers cast him, left him for dead so many years before. Having soared to great heights, why on earth would Joseph return to the pit that day? The Joseph story, for all its dreamlike grandeur, cast of characters, and action-packed family drama, is also the story of one mere pit. Just one pit, a hole in the ground, holy ground, if you will, that each man experienced differently, but that nonetheless managed to consume them all. We learn from the brothers, their father Jacob, and from the one who rose above it all, Joseph. It's what you do with the story of your time in the darkness that can change your life. For Joseph, it's obvious, but his brothers too knew darkness. As Joseph approached them that day in the fields, tired of his fantastical and unending dreams, they plotted against him. Here comes that constant dreamer. Let us kill him and throw him into one of those pits, and we can say a savage beast devoured him, and then we shall see what comes of his dreams. But when the brothers return home to break the news to their father Jacob, they see their father's anguish, agonizing at the loss of his most beloved son. To explain Joseph's death, they begin to spin a story, digging themselves deeper and deeper into their own profound, dark hole, not unlike the one in which they threw their brother. And you can imagine these brothers carrying this story with them wherever they go. When, during the famine, they travel to Egypt to procure food, when they face the second in command of the land, a man whom they should surely recognize, that story is with them. When they tell him, "We are 12 brothers, ha'echad einenu," and one brother is gone. As they stare into the face of that one brother who is gone, that story is with them. One cannot come face to face with fratricide and not be affected, altered, traumatized. On the return from burying Jacob, Joseph is not the only son of Israel to revisit that dark pit of the past. The brothers see Joseph, and sitting there, staring into the pit, gazing into that emptiness, they tremble. They remember what they did, and they worry that he remembers too. Our text reflects their fear. What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us, they ask each other. Now that our father is dead, he will make his hatred of us felt. And even after making up with their brother, surely they carry that pit, that story with them wherever they go. But instead, something amazing happens. Joseph offers at the pit a blessing for the miracle of his survival. A blessing, not a curse, not a grudge, not words laced with venom. He stops, he remembers, and he gives thanks for the incredible journey he has had, starting there in that deep, dark pit. And then he moves on. There are moments in our lives that become ingrained into who we are, into our souls. moments that stay with us always, that feel like stones in our pockets pulling us down. Sometimes we forget that they're there, but eventually we feel their weight, and moving over those rough edges with our fingers, we remember. Often these moments are personal. The death of a loved one, the betrayal of a friend, disappointing a parent, but sometimes we experience them not as individuals, but as a community, as a people. These past few weeks and past few months have been incredibly difficult for all of us, as attacks on Jews, both violent and otherwise, are happening so frequently that they almost don't surprise us anymore. And I don't want to rehash them. We all know. We know because each and every time we hear about one of these horrific, devastating, heartbreaking attacks, we feel as if it happened to us. We feel as if it happened to our children. And we wonder if this is what our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents felt like in a different time, in a different place. And perhaps even you have been directly affected in recent days. Yes, even here, in our sacred bubble where our numbers are strong and our pride is unmatched. In your schools, your places of business, on the street, on a playground. We have a choice to make now as American Jews. We can choose to carry fear with us wherever we go. We can choose to let anger and indignation consume us. We can accept the weight of this burden and carry it on our shoulders, feeling the pressure, letting it keep us down and heavy and grounded. Like Joseph's brothers, we can let this moment of darkness define us and define this moment in our history. Or we can be like Joseph, letting this current of hate and ignorance propel us forward toward blessing. This is not an easy task. We are taught at a young age and reminded all too often that when hate is in the air, it's never good for the Jews. And thus there is this understandable tendency to turn inward and withdraw when we feel vulnerable. But we have risen to the challenge again and again, organizing and protesting and using our voices, and not just when we as Jews are the targets. We do this not in spite of our Jewish identity, but because of it. And when we show up in coalition with others, we show up as Jews, because anti-Semitism doesn't have a single home. It lives on the right and it lives on the left. And when we stand up and speak out, we do so proudly as Jewish Americans. That is our right as Americans and our obligation as Jews. We are being presented at this moment with an incredible opportunity to use these dark days as a chance to gather our strength, to unite as a people across denominations and across the globe. We can fix our eyes and hearts on the future, educating others and marching, lobbying those in power, teaching our children, and reaffirming our commitment to who we are and what is important to us. But we have to decide. Barry Weiss, a regular columnist at the New York Times, spoke powerfully at the Jewish Solidarity March just this week. I loved her words. I'm going to share some with you. She said, "I am a Jew because of the martyred Tree of Life and Chabad of Poway in Jersey City. And I am a Jew because of the courage of those who fought back in Muncie and who then immediately after the attack gathered together to sing. I am a Jew because my brothers and sisters in Crown Heights and Borough Park and Williamsburg refused to hide their Judaism. I am a Jew because I refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. I am a Jew because Jews do not cause Jew hatred, ever. Today, as in so many times in history, there are many forces in the world insisting that Jews must disappear. Some say it bluntly, some cloak it in the language of progress, but I am a Jew because I know there is a force far greater than that, and that is the force of who we are and the force of our world-changing ideas. The Jewish people were not put on earth to be anti-Semites. We were put on earth to be Jews. We are the people whose God never slumbers nor sleeps, and so neither can we. We are the lamplighters. We are the ever-dying people that refuses to die. The people of Israel lives now and forever. We have to decide. It's up to us. Joseph or his brothers, burden or blessing, darkness or light, fear or pride, silence or song. I choose Joseph. Blessings, light, pride, and above all, I choose song. and I hope each of you will choose to sing with me. Shabbat Shalom.